everyone, and welcome to North 100, a Canadian Highlander podcast. I'm Serge. Joining me today, I have a Jer.
Hello.
An Alex.
Where are we?
And a Ben.
All right, today I have pants on.
Fantastic. And to answer your question, we are in Ikoria, part 3 of our Lair of Behemoths set review. But first, a reminder, this podcast is brought to you by you with your support over the Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Quick reminder, our set reviews are not exhaustive. We organize them by color, and they are evaluated from a Canadian Highlander point of view. That being said, we are grouping together the Ikoria set review and the commander cards from that we think are relevant. So, you know, if you're like, but that's a commander card, that's okay. And today's episode, gold.
Oh, that's how we ended up with this many gold cards.
There's like 45 gold cards.
I was like, how did a non-Alara set come up with this many multicolors?
Is this a wedge set? Is that something we can say? Like, this is a 3-color set?
It's a wedge set.
Okay, I guess that explains that.
Yeah, I mean, our first card is Selesnya, but...
That's in one of the wedges.
Yeah, all right, fair enough.
Well, and often wedge/shard things have hybrid mana, so...
Right. Oh, well.
Well, let us jump right into it, friends. First card we want to talk about today is the Alert Heed Bonder. This is a 3-mana 2/4 human scout for 1 Selesnya hybrid. Selesnya hybrid has Vigilance, not bad. And at the beginning of your end step, you gain 1 life for each creature you control with Vigilance. Alex, start us off.
Aggro players hate it. Seriously, this is like it's double pip, which is always a little tricky, but it's like easy to cast. It has a giant butt. It attack, it defend, it gain life. If I was an aggressive player, I would be really, really unhappy to see this across the table from me. Like, creatures like this are just a pain in the ass if you're trying to force damage through. I don't know that at the 3-drop slot, though, I don't know what this would potentially usurp. Because it's like pretty hotly competed, but like this card seems perfectly fine.
It's gross with Brimaz.
Excuse me.
Yeah, King Kitty loves the Alert Heed Bonder.
This card is just like obviously a huge hoser against red and very cheap to get out, but they're just, as like Jer pointed out with Brimaz, there are so many creatures that just happen to have Vigilance as well, not as like many as say Lifelink or Flying or whatever it may be, but like a fair amount. And even if you're in like a creature mirror, like if you play out this gets to kind of just keep attacking with the threat of like Dramoka's Command or
Blossoming Defense.
If you even get 2 creatures, including this one with Vigilance, you're gaining 2 life a turn, and that's just like so backbreaking.
It's also really powerful with equipment. Like Vigilance with equipment is already really good.
Heck,
well, are we all talking
sword
ourselves
on it
into a 2/4 with Vigilance?
6 toughness.
Apparently.
I don't know. I think it's easy.
We're like, welcome to the new bomb of Highlander. This uncommon.
Oh yeah.
It's just an easy to cast 2/4 in colors that like can accelerate to 3 very easily. And
it's also a human.
It gains a life every turn, which is not, obviously cool card. Anyways, my turn. Dark Ritual, Black Lotus, blah blah blah.
Dark Lotus,
but like, yeah, you haven't even. If you thought Black Lotus was bad,
is that what you used to cast Dark Magician Girl?
All right. Next up, Brokos Apex of Forever. This is a 5-mana 6/6 legendary Nightmare Beast Elemental. Casts for 2 black, green, blue. Also can mutate for 2 Dimir hybrid green. Has trample, and you may cast it from your graveyard using its mutate ability. Jer.
This card's probably going to see some play in a couple archetypes. Any deck that utilizes the graveyard, such as Dredge, may want this, as Dredge often has a bunch of lackluster bodies due to the fact that it's getting them all for free, like mutating this onto like a Narcomoeba you got for free, or upgrading your Bloodghast one time, or something
Yeah,
like
Jared,
that.
just so we're clear on the mutate ability, this is like 5 mana, give something trample, right?
And 6/6.
And you can make it a 6/6.
Yeah.
You can choose to have the Brokos body.
Oh, it's either or.
Yeah,
I'm
you can
still
put it
trying
on
to figure out how
top
this...
or on the bottom, so you can choose.
Okay.
You can choose for the power and toughness of the creature to be 6/6, as well as have trample, as well as have the text box of the other creature.
Okay, that's quite a lot better.
Yeah.
And this will probably get slapped on a Stinkweed Imp.
Yeah, I think you could also see it as a sort of like silver bullet survival of the fittest target in some decks that are just looking to value their opponent out, because it's a creature you can just freely survival away and get value back later. And notably, if you're utilizing the graveyard, you don't actually need to be in 3 colors. You can just be either blue green or probably more commonly black green.
There's some number of these graveyard deck cards that have power and or toughness equal to the number of creatures in the yard, and what those creatures really need is trample.
Yeah,
that's true.
So, yeah, no, I'm pretty hot on this.
And card. Also being base 6/6, or no, I think there's something about mutate and characteristic defining abilities, and that always having the power and toughness. I think I read something like that.
Yes, if one of the abilities on the card defines a power and toughness ability, so it's like its power and toughness is equal to that, it will always apply. So if you had Brokos out, but you also had a creature that defined it, it would not be a 6/6. It would be the other line of text. It depends specifically on the templating of that card, but there are examples where you are correct that does overlay. Random shout out to people watching. If you are curious how mutate works or the mechanics works, there is the judge video that Nelson and I put up on the LRMTG channel, and we dive pretty deep on all the lines on these new mechanics, which can be pretty tricky. Going back to Brokos really quick, what do you think of this as a mid-range card? Just as a 5 mana 6/6 that potentially comes back for not too expensive.
I think if you're not looking to utilize the graveyard in a pretty significant way, there's probably just better options. Like the 5-drop slot and Bug is so heavily contested, like Scarab God, Titania.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just like barely, that's not ignoring Planeswalkers, that's ignoring 4-drops you could play. Like, yeah. I don't think it's going to see play as a mid-range card, personally.
Let's move on then to Chevel, Bane of Monsters. 2 mana 1/3 legendary human rogue for a green and a black, except the other way around, a black and a green. Has Death Touch, and at the beginning of your upkeep, if your opponents control no permanents with a bounty counter on them, put a bounty counter on target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. Then, whenever a permanent an opponent controls with a bounty counter on it dies, gain 3 life and draw a card. Alex, what do you think?
So I got a rules question for this guy. Is this like was it Mathis?
I'm literally looking it up right now. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the bounty counters, are they still live after this creature dies?
Yes. Bounty counters stick around, and there are multiple cards that refer to bounty counters, and they all... I mean, I don't want to say they all work, but Chevel's secondary ability, it doesn't matter if it's a bounty counter from Chevel or a bounty counter from whatever that bounty assassin
Mathis.
Or Mathis. Yeah, okay, let's go with the playable example and not the 4-drop Tempest commander card. But yeah, it's basically if the bounty counters, doesn't matter where it came from.
Really quickly, how do you spell Mathis so we can bring this card up? I've never actually heard of it.
Mathas.
All right, so this is a 3 mana 3/3 for red, white, black legendary vampire with menace or menace. At the beginning of your end step, put a bounty counter on target creature an opponent controls. For as long as that creature has a bounty counter on it, it has, when this creature dies, each opponent draws a card and gains 2 life. Interesting.
So that
it's kind of similar.
Whenever a creature with a bounty counter dies and you have both of these in play because you're playing 4-color bounty counter tribal.
Yeah, welcome to 4-color bounty.
You draw 2 cards and gain 5.
Cool.
Okay, returning to Earth. So like, I'm kind of on the fence whether I would put this in something like Black Mold, because that's, I imagine that's why you threw this to me. The card draw and life gain off of permanents is like really cool. It's only got 1 power, which is a real drag. Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to power out as many like outrageously undercosted creatures as possible. And while this gives you some sort of longevity in the long game, I don't know that that's what that deck wants to do. Maybe this could maybe be a thing in a sort of like more medium, like mid-rangey deck, where you want to have something that's like kind of, because like this is all right on defense, and like if you play this in like say some sort of rock deck that has your maelstrom pulses and your like whatever else that blows up planeswalkers and or creatures with impunity, then you can get more benefit off of the bounty counters.
I could even see playing this in literal just like Jund. Just like play it on 2. If your opponent plays a creature, then on turn 3 you kill their thing, gain 3, and draw a card.
And then
you're
crack
probably
in
going to
for
kill
1.
their thing anyways.
Yeah, I don't mind playing this in Abzan or playing it in, well, I guess Jund, but Abzan's more in my wheelhouse as like a deck that I have played, but just like the body isn't super relevant for like I have to kill them as quickly as possible, but like those decks can occasionally play with their food and then kill you. And like having a death toucher with that doesn't die to shock and can trade with like jungle lions is pretty, it's not
Doesn't even trade with
against
jungle lion.
or yeah, it kills
Just
off
kills
the jungle
them.
lions. I do want to clarify though before, because Lord knows we'll have somebody in the comments getting pedantic about the specifications about Mathis interacting with a black-green creature, and that Chevel's ability triggers off of bounty counters. So if a bounty counter is put by Mathis on the creature and it dies, then you get both the Mathis ability and the Chevel ability. If there's a bounty counter put on by Chevel and then you get a Mathis in play, the drawing the cards and gaining life that is associated with the Mathis ability is only on counters from Mathis. I don't know why I feel like I have to say this, but I'm going to try and at least save us a little bit of mental fortitude from the comments.
Thank you, my friend.
Oh, no worries.
Cheers.
All right, let's move on to the Cunning Night Bonder. Kind of a cool card here. Human Rogue for Dimir Hybrid gets you a 2/2. So 2 mana 2/2. I didn't phrase that in the best way possible, but now we're on the same page. Has Flash, and spells with Flash you cast cost 1 generic less and can't be countered. Jer, those are your favorite words. Tell us about the Night Bonder.
All right, so normally I hate the words can't be countered, but in this case, they're on my team. I can play this card. I'm pretty excited for this card. I think the sort of like Flash deck has been a fringe deck that a couple people have played for quite a while in Highlander, and up until now it's been many colors, and this set actually might give enough sort of creature density to narrow it down to 3 colors, which I think is really what the deck wants.
Which 3 colors do you figure it is?
I think you're maybe bug, but
yeah,
I'm still
no white.
Yeah,
some really good green flash creatures, like really good.
It feels weird to cut white, but you need green for the density. Green has you obviously blue goes without saying.
Sure.
Green has the second most creatures, and black now has a bunch of sweet payoffs and also removal spells. Like,
that's the biggest so problem weird.
The biggest problem with being Bant is that your removal is actually pretty weak for a deck that wants to play the control role in a bunch of matchups.
Yeah.
So for going red and black is pretty hard for the deck. But yeah, this card is amazing. Comes down early, so often beats your opponent's first counter spell. Like, they're not worried what you're going to do on 2, and then sort of just going shields up for the rest of the game with this in play is insane, because it's like sort of one of those old school lords where it cost reduces things with flash, and notably not just creatures, it's spells. So if you're
Yeah,
playing
that's kind of a big
Omen of
deal.
the Sea, it's now 1 mana. If you are playing white and you're playing Cast Out, that's 1 less. And the fact that you're casting them with impunity because they can't be countered, your opponent can't stop them. So I guess notably they can remove this and then counter them, but what you gonna do? Yeah, this card's
I
great.
mean, what's it? 3-mana Venser. That's kind of odd.
Yeah, 2 mana Cleek, 2 mana Nimble Obstructionist. It just lets you like start double spelling, which allows you to start racing a lot faster, applying that much more pressure. I was like
trying to think of that it's like a time spiral card. It's blue and flashes back for black, and you tutor for a spell.
Mystical
Teachings.
That's the one. It's got it's just
that's
an
instant.
It's an
now it only
instant.
works. Yeah.
So
this works for
notably, it doesn't
flash,
cost
not
reduce
instants,
but
right. It finds a card with flash.
That's why it probably ends up in the same deck if you are Sultai, just for the sake of being instant speed demonic tutor.
Yes,
more or less.
All right. Next up, we have Death's Oasis. This is a 3-mana enchantment for Abzan. So a white, a black, and a green. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. Then, return a creature card with lesser converted mana cost than the creature that died from your graveyard to your hand. And then activated ability, 1 generic, and sacrifice it. Gain life equal to the greatest converted mana cost amongst creatures you control. I'm going to throw this one to myself. And this card is interesting.
It's really weird.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about it specifically in an Abzan graveyard recurring nightmare shell, which is a deck I've had some success piloting in the past. And it's tough because this is a classic engine card. This is a card that doesn't do a lot by itself. We often talk about this is an X mana do nothing. And you have to evaluate, is the advantage it's going to generate enough to justify the slowdown in tempo and board presence you're going to have if this wasn't just like a kitchen finks or something like that.
Like
right?
in the grind, I think this could be a real snowball late game.
Yeah,
because then you're just like, every creature you field, you're getting something back, and then it's just like they're never able to run you out of gas.
Like if you're playing a deck that you don't mind wrathing your own board, develop a threat. I mean, the classic, Jeremy White 2-drop, 3-drop Day of Judgment myself sort of board.
Holy moly! Day of Judgment, draw 3 cards.
Sort of, yeah, and it's not quite.
Yes.
It's not quite draw, right? Like, I don't know. I'd love to open up the thoughts to the other two. That's my evaluation of this card.
Serge, I got a quick question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, you're familiar with breakfast cereal, right? Do you have any preference for the shape in which your breakfast cereal takes? Do you like kind of like flakes? Do you like puffs? That kind of stuff? Because I tend to like loops. So this I'm gonna give this card a shot.
Do you have a combo here?
Well, this is one of these cards where you look at it. I still haven't figured out like the exact this is the best way to do it line. But it's the kind of card when I saw it and that chimp at the back of my brain that remembers all the niche Lotus Cobra, Dryad Arbor loops and Sandra Bullock or Pattern Rector. It's just like shrieking at the rest of my body. It's because it checks off all the boxes. It's a tutorable enchantment. It's in Abzan. Life gain is whatever, but obviously being able to return the creature, you're returning creatures that aren't you don't just return from what you mill, which is something that is also found in this set.
Yeah.
Kind of like a selective return. So with evoke creatures, it's pretty good.
Yes. Yes.
You
Wow.
can
Go on. You have my attention.
Just like other sack outlets, Revel Arc, Karmic Guide shenanigans, maybe Safi. This does things with Safi. And
Yes, it does.
the more I've kind of like been, I don't know, it's just like the last couple of sets and the general climate of the format is just like, I think the correct way to play Pattern Rector is just kill them. And this is one of the ways that you can either just kill them or brute force your way through the disruptive decks. Like, I'm not here to play Loxodon Smiter anymore. I just
What about
want
Siege
to.
Rhino?
Well, Siege Rhino is just like the secret. It checks off literally every box. Siege Rhino's a lot like Death's Oasis. I've always said that.
So help me out really quick here. There's a 3-mana artifact that does something similar to this. Whenever a artifact you control dies, return a slightly cheaper one. Help me out with the
Scrap
name.
Trawler?
Is it
Scrappy T? Are we talking about Scrappy T?
Yeah, and so Scrap Trawler, 3-mana artifact creature construct 3/2. Whenever Scrap Trawler or another artifact you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, return to your hand target artifact card in your graveyard with lesser converted mana cost. That's what Death's Oasis makes me think of, and I also see this as the downside of the Oasis, is that Scrap Trawler also furthers your board in that it's a creature and it can kill stuff and it applies pressure and it's also, castable off of Workshop. My hesitation with Death's Oasis is, as powerful as it is, does it do enough in the decks that want it that you'll play it even though you're taking a turn off?
Well, I think Death's Oasis advantage is that it's an engine in itself. Like, it also powers itself with the mill ability. Whereas Scrap Trawler requires all the setup to be done already.
Yeah, that's excellent insight. Wheeler?
You're just like, I'm trying to think about the cards together, and there's just, the colors don't line up, and there are things that you can do with both of them. But yeah, it's kind of like what Jer said, like, Scrap Trawler needs a little more commitment. The payoff is absolutely worth it, but I'm not playing all these eggs just because I think they look neat.
That's fair.
That's a damn lie.
Death's Oasis is just like, in those decks, you're going to be like, oh, okay, cool. My Knight of Autumn died. Guess I'll get back this. I shouldn't spoil the card. Guess I'll get back this broken 2-drop. Sure. Or Wall of Omens, Wall of Blossoms. That's still value. You're still milling yourself. It's, I think this card will see play.
Alex, you got any thoughts?
I'm intrigued to see how it's going to work out. The last little thought I was going to have about the mill ability is that these sort of graveyard decks we talk about, they tend to turn their graveyard into such a resource that regrowth becomes demonic tutor. So, yeah.
Very cool.
Anywho.
All right, next up, Dire Tactics. This is an instant spell for a white and a black. Exile target creature, period. If you don't control a human, lose life equal to that creature's toughness. Wheeler.
Card's great. Card's really good.
This card's nuts.
It's 2 mana. You just exile any creature. I don't even care. Like, if I have a human, cool. The nice part is that a lot of decks that want this kind of ability will probably have a human. But even if I don't, not the end of the world. I'll kill that. It's fine. Great. Just kill their thing. Just kill their thing.
Just kill it.
Yeah, I don't really have much to it. This card's just kind of extremely good in the decks that want it. And maybe it could even find a home in Esper mid-range or Esper control-y things. You have enough humans to maybe get around the life loss with Snapcaster Mage and Monastery Mentor, JVP.
I look at this card as another compelling reason to splash black in your Death and Taxes list.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
just a little dash.
It's very clean.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something that isn't as prevalent as you would imagine in that kind of deck. Once you get past swords and path and the occasional
Declaration in Stone.
Well, Deck and Stone and like Winds of Abandon have some baggage attached to them, right? Like obviously Path to Exile gives them a land, but it's hard to argue with instant speed 1 mana. And frankly, it's hard to argue with instant speed 2 mana. So if you're on black, which there are other cards in this set as well that kind of push you into that, then by all means play this. But also just like if you're playing like warrior tribal or human tribal or whatever it may be, then Abzan midrange, I'll absolutely play this and that. But yeah, great card, clean.
All right, let's move on to Eerie Ultimatum. And I believe we're actually covering all of the ultimatums because they're really interesting and big.
Boy.
Yeah. So 7 mana, Abzan, costs white, white, black, 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 green, green. It's a sorcery. Return any number of permanents with different names, doesn't really matter in our format, from your graveyard to the battlefield. Go ahead, Serge. Thanks, Serge. It's a finisher. It's 7 mana. And I think maybe specifically in like a very slow Abzan graveyard value deck where you'd want to play it because you obviously care about putting things into your graveyard. This is okay, but it's risky. It's 7 mana. This is the sort of thing that is terrible until very late. Like you don't typically accelerate your mana very quickly in the graveyard decks. You're not playing a lot of ramp, but those games can also go long if you're attritioning people out. So it's a maybe. I don't know if I had to give this a grade, which is something we don't really do on cards. This is maybe a C.
Whoa, there.
It's powerful, but like I'm not throwing this in every Abzan graveyard deck I have. I think that Wheeler, tell me why you're going to play this in every Abzan graveyard deck.
Serge, I'm going to tell you why you are going to play this in decks outside of that.
You have my attention.
Okay, let's see. If what's a deck that can get into Abzan relatively easily, that can return, that puts a bunch of cards into the graveyard.
Is it a card type?
Well, here's the trick question. I'm sorry for pulling the wool, or not pulling the wool. I'm sorry for just having a fun, but I think that this card, Serge, will end up playing this in both lands, an archetype that he's taken from me, the Premier Lands Pilot, and picked up occasionally. But like a dedicated like combo-ish lands deck, or in Enchantress. It's like that's a deck that can add a
weird for both of those though.
Right, but you're a deck that adds a buttload of mana. Well, you just have a buttload of mana in enchantments.
And in Enchantress, like half your cards add 1 mana of any color.
So like lands, the biggest thing that makes me nervous about playing this in lands and Enchantress is the triple black pip.
Right.
Green mana is fine. White mana is fine. You produce a ton of mana. But like I'm very rarely playing a heavy presence of black in lands. It's normally like blue would be a heavier color than that. Black is often just played for like Entomb and maybe Obnixilis.
One Urborg easy game.
Oh, dang it. I had a whole bit.
I'm sorry.
What if it's in your graveyard, forehead?
There's no way in lands to recur lands from your graveyard.
Yeah, we couldn't possibly bring them back. There's no way we could get maximum value out of our fetches.
That's just like, are you thinking of Eerie Ultimatum as a 7 mana replenish an Enchantress? Like there are cheaper ways to bring things back.
Right?
Yeah, so like for decks like lands or even Enchantress, you can focus on just returning the primary card type, and that's honestly not the worst because you're still getting redundancy for decks that can get that much mana and can relatively fix their colors or build to those color schemes quite well. But then you also are just like returning the odd Enchantress. You're returning like a Crucible World or a Zern Orb that got blown up.
No, I can see the upside. Yeah,
it's just like it doesn't need to return like a million things of those just like if you played this in lands and it returned all your lands plus 1 Courser of Crewfix or like a Gitrog or
Yeah,
Chatty
whatever it may
offshoot.
be.
Yeah.
Oof.
All right, you have my attention. I'll give this a try.
All right.
Well, let's try a different ultimatum then. Emergent Ultimatum, same thing but bug. Black, black, green, 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 blue, blue. Search your library for up to 3 monocolored cards with different names and exile them. An opponent chooses one of those cards, then shuffle that card into your library. You may cast the other ones without paying their mana cost. Exile Emergent Ultimatum. Wheeler.
It's a lot of text for just saying you win the game.
Yeah, I mean, as far as cards that just say you win the game on them, I don't even know if this is a color requirement that much, because there's trips green in the middle. There's black for demonic tutoring for this card and all that jazz. I mean, blue is also a pretty good color.
Wheeler, what's your package with this?
Oh, thank God you added on that last bit. I would Omniscience comes to mind as a thing that you can do, but really, Seasons Past and Time Walks are pretty good. You can Dragon Storm people out, I guess, is they're, again, much like Death's Oasis. I have packages that are expensive. And that's not the end of the world for this deck and this color combination, right? Omniscience, Omnitel decks weren't exactly shying away from playing cards like Into the Infinite and Emrakul already. But notably, you can't get Emrakul from this.
Yeah, I was going to say, colorless.
Yeah, I digress, though. The point is that those decks aren't oh, darn, I have this 10 drop or this 12 drop in my 100 cards. There's probably a more sleek line available that is just kind of boring, I imagine it involves Time Walks or Turnabout or something like that. But it has, again, we have these sets of cards that when you cast this, you can win the game. Mm-hmm. Those cards are currently clunky, but that's fine. And when we find out a more efficient set of cards to grab with this, then we're only just kind of streamlining it so that the only air quote clunky card is Emergent Ultimatum in your deck.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Fiend Artisan here. So for Golgari Hybrid, 2 mana, you get a 1/1 Nightmare. Fiend Artisan gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard. Then for X and Golgari and tap it, sacrifice another creature. Search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less. Put it onto the battlefield and then shuffle your library, but activate this ability only anytime you could activate a sorcery. Alex.
Hey, remember that deck we were talking about that utilizes creatures in the bin for power toughness?
Yeah.
This one. What I particularly like about this one is that one of the biggest drawbacks of a lot of creatures that take their power and or toughness from the quantity of creatures in your bin is they're 0/0s. So you can just brick off of them if you have nothing. And this doesn't, because it's got 1 power, 1 toughness. So, your floor is almost this. I mean, this is practically like a Tarmogoyf in the right deck. It could just be a giant donkey. But also it does an okay impression of Birthing Pod. It's not
it doesn't
the best impression.
Ahead on mana like Pod does.
No,
but
it doesn't.
I totally see what you mean. Yeah.
Well, it can, right? It relative to the creature, because the variable is the mana you spend, not the creature you're sacrificing.
Yeah,
which I think is actually a huge benefit. Often when you want to sack cheaper creatures and you don't necessarily always want to get a 2-drop, you can sack a 1 mana creature and get a 6-drop if you have enough mana.
Yeah, that's fair.
You yeet this into survival decks for sure, right?
I think this card is insane.
Yeah, this card
is a repeatable Greenstone Zenith with upside.
Card just feels like it's probably the best card in the set, or one of the best cards, and something that we will be seeing for a millennia to come.
Yes. 10,000 years from now, Fiend Artisan will still be around.
We're just
All right,
going to get real tired of this card real quick.
It's a groan.
Let's move on to General Kudrow of Dranith. 3 mana, 3/3 legendary human soldier for 1 a white and a black. Other humans you control get +1/+1. Whenever General Kudrow or another human enters the battlefield under your control, exile target card from an opponent's graveyard. And 2, and sacrifice 2 humans. Destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. Alex.
Hey, you guys! It's another human lord that's also like pretty great, even if you're not on like a humans deck. Like it's a 3/3 for 3 that has some relevant abilities. It hates out your opponent's graveyard. And you've got this other ability that lets you blow up, big creatures.
Yeah, he's
This
got the
card's
big
awesome.
red button.
Yeah, just like awooga, get it. And kind of importantly, he can sacrifice himself to this ability, which is handy. Like sometimes stuff like this is not as good because you need 2 creatures besides the one that's activating the ability. This card's just good as heck.
Well, let's talk about the General's Enforcer then. They're besties. White and a black gets you a 2/3 human soldier. Legendary humans you control have indestructible. It's not all legendary creatures, it's legendary humans specifically. And for 2 a white and a black activated ability, exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, create a 1/1 white human soldier token. So you can exile any card, but if the card you exiled is also a creature, you get to make a 1/1. Alex, does the Enforcer also have a home?
I think so. I mean, like the you've got 2 relevant creature types. It's really good cost to body. Making all your legendary humans, like there's a lot of good legendary humans. Like this is another one of those in stuff like Death and Taxes, you get a lot of legendary humans. I mean, your Thalias and ones that I'm not thinking of right now. The hating out the graveyard is like really expensive as an ability, but like I don't know, this is your sort of like end of the game, start rebuilding your army from scratch. Yeah, I'd consider this one. He's not like a super like must play, but card seems good enough.
Word. All right, let's talk about another ultimatum here. Genesis Ultimatum. This is the rug or teamer version. So green, green, blue, 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 red, red, sorcery. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. Put any number of permanent cards from amongst them onto the battlefield and the rest into your hand, and then exile it. And Jer, take it away, please.
What?
I'm actually not the biggest fan of this card.
Yeah.
Yeah, in our this seems to me like either a card that's more aimed at commander or 4 formats where you can like do something ridiculous with it more reliably, like 7 mana for a draw 5 at which is probably the worst case. I guess hitting lands is worse than drawing a card, but like I just don't think it's gonna be reliable enough to win you the game. Like the big rug deck I typically play is like a Planeswalker Time Walks deck, and even the nice case of being able to hit like Ugin and some other big Planeswalkers like isn't high enough for me to want to play it in that deck when I just like draw a bunch of Time Walks that I can't cast and probably lose.
Like the strength of a lot of these decks, be it like the rug deck Jerry's mentioning, people have asked about this card in Paradox Engine. It's like a lot of these decks either play a bunch of really dorky permanents to get them to their haymakers, they play a bunch of spells like rampant growths and whatnot to get there. So your density's kind of messed up. And then the cards that really get you going, like the cards that really make people groan from these decks, are when you cast that Time Warp, when you cast that Time Twister, cards that the Ultimatum isn't really hitting.
Yeah.
Well, let's try a different ultimatum that draws 5. Inspired Ultimatum. Blue, blue, red, 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 white, white, sorcery. Target player gains 5 life. Inspired Ultimatum deals 5 damage to any target. Then draw 5 cards. Wheeler.
This card probably wins the award for like card that I absolutely shouldn't be playing, but will try to play.
Yeah.
I think this card has gotten a lot of flack from people, and partially that is justified. Cruel Ultimatum has a lot of the same text on here, but at slightly slightly larger numbers and slightly more text. But context for the colors is also pretty important. This card is absolutely powerful. It's just very expensive, and we need to find where it goes. I have been playing and losing to like a Jeskai Super Friends deck with Time Walks galore, and have recently seen Fires of Invention kind of give it a bit of a try, because really you only need to cast for those not familiar with Fires of Invention, it's I guess you haven't been playing standard.
Yeah.
But 3 in a red for an enchantment from Throne of Eldraine. It says that you can only play spells during your turn and no more than 2 spells each turn. And you can cast spells with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of lands you control without paying their mana cost. But like if the 2 spells you're casting each turn are Time Walk, or Planeswalker, or a combination of the 2, a Wildfire and a Planeswalker, like that's fine. I mean, Wildfire kind of makes it a little icky.
A little awkward, yeah.
Yeah, but notably it's a, like, you may do this, right? So you can just still tap your mana rocks for something that ends up being pretty big. So I can see this card sliding into that shell, and I'll try it at Jeskai Control just because I'm a sucker for big flashy stuff like this, but I would probably just keep this for other formats.
Yeah, I think this card really wanted, and honestly could have been an instant, and then
yeah,
I'd be more
honestly,
on board, but
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the part of the set review that's got me sweating. This is the part of the set review where I have to pronounce a bunch of weird names. So let's start off right now with Jarina Kudrow. This is a 4-mana 3/3 legendary human soldier for 1, a red, a white, and a black. When they enter the battlefield, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token for each time you've cast a commander from the command zone this game. Not super relevant for us. Other
Not
humans you
in
control
any way
get
relevant.
+2. Yeah, +2/+0. Alex, ignoring the first line of text, what do you think of this just as a Mardu friend?
This isn't Marchesa.
Yeah.
Like, I hate to be sort of that down on it, but I think there's better ways to pump your team. I think there's way better bombs in this mana configuration. Yeah, it's just like +2/+0 is really cool, but you could just play a Sorin and permanently pump your whole team no matter what it is. Or, like I said, play Marchesa, have haste, draw cards, do dumb stuff.
Have haste, draw cards, do crimes. Love it. All right.
Let me write that down.
Yeah. Jubilant Skybonder is a 3-mana 2/2 human wizard for 1, and then Azorius hybrid mana, has flying, and creatures you control with flying have spells your opponent casts that target this creature cost 2 more to cast. Alex.
Uh-oh. Man, everything pointing towards like a new Skies deck. This is, I'm gonna defer to Ben whether this is like too expensive to put in flying men. I suspect it is.
Yeah.
But in a Skies deck, which is sort of like, I think this card's nuts in that deck, because it's a burb. It makes all your other burbs a big pain up your opponent's ass.
Yeah, not to be pedantic on a Magic podcast, but and I'm not calling Alex out. I'm just clarifying for people the difference between Skies and like flying men. Skies is, I'm killing you dead, and you're not going to be able to block or kill my things. So playing 3 drops and like curving out at 4 is like fine, reasonable. That's what you want to do.
I mean, if you really want to swag on them, you play Moat.
Yeah. That's That's Alex's 2-drop, 3-drop Wrath-a-God. It's just like
Oh,
Stormfront,
baby.
Pegasus,
Oh, baby.
Kyra, Moat.
I'm here for that curve.
And then Flying Men is the deck where after we changed to the London Mulligan, and almost universally everybody's like, okay, we should add like a couple more lands, and I think we should overall play just like more lands than we would ever expect. And then Flying Man's like, oh, I'm on 23 lands still.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the classic 1-drop, 1-drop, 1-drop deck, right?
Yeah, one drop, 1-drop, 1-drop. Wait, you're at 16? Oh.
Hang on, 2-drop.
So I want to compare this card to Kyra, Great Glass Spinner, which is a card that used to see a lot of play in the format years ago and kind of fell out of favor. So Kyra is a 3-mana 2/2 with flying for 1 blue. Creatures you control have, whenever this creature spell becomes targeted for the first time, counter that. And that was a great way to keep your threats alive, but was really awkward if you ever wanted to equip, like give any of your threats a sword, because it would actually counter that activated ability. And what do we think of this, of Jubilant Skybonder maybe replacing what that role used to be as sort of like a really solid threat that also protects your
Kind of
board?
seems better, and then like the colors are a little bit easier to hit.
I'm still jamming Kyra over this nine times out of 10. But
Really?
and I still play a bunch of Kyra, but
Fair.
well, because like Kyra protects all your creatures, not just creatures with flying. So I just think it's it's a little bit more.
But what
like
if your deck
widespread.
only has creatures with flying, Jay?
Yeah.
Well,
Classic blunder.
then you're probably playing both.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, let's move on to Kashira, the Orphan Guard. This is a 3-mana 3/2 legendary cat beast for 1 Selesnya hybrid. It's a companion, so for the companion clause to be in effect, your deck must only have creatures that are cats, elementals, nightmares, dinosaurs, and or beasts. And then has vigilance. Each other creature you control, that's a cat, elemental, nightmare, dinosaur, or beast, gets +1/+1 and has vigilance. I'm going to throw to the premier cat pilot of the format, Wheeler. What are your thoughts?
To quickly clarify,
Please.
for those at home as well, boy, this is our first companion, and I want to say this loud and I want to say this proud. Canadian Highlander is a format without sideboards, so a companion can't hang out in that. We're also not a commander variant, so the companion doesn't hang out there. Companions don't hang out. If you want to play companions in the format, you have to include them in your 100-card deck,
Or more.
or more, I guess. Yeah, if you're a Garrett. But yeah. So a card like this, the first companion text, it's not really. It pretend as though it's not there, but that's fine because it's a cat with a relevant ability. In fact, 2 relevant abilities. Notice how I'm digging deep and calling vigilance a relevant ability.
Sure, dude.
fine.
I thought beast was the other relevant ability.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that, Jer. I did a real quick Scryfall search for beasts of converted mana cost 4 or less. I looked at the first page and then I sighed and closed the window.
No, but it pumps your questing beast in the cat deck because it's an honorary cat.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
but
questing
it's not
beast
a cat,
is an honorary cat.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Thank you for. I'm glad that you're staying on you're following the flavor inclusions too. That's very important for the cat deck.
I'm up to date.
Amazing.
But yeah, you play this in cats.
Perfect. The musical.
Yeah,
the musical,
right.
the deck. All right, let's just move on to Calamax, the Stormsire. Calamax, the Stormsire. First try. 4-mana 4/4 legendary elemental dinosaur for 1, a green, a blue, and a red. Whenever you cast your first instant spell each turn, if Calamax the Stormsire is tapped, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copies. Whenever you copy an instant, put a +1/+1 counter on Calamax. Jared, what do you think?
I'm excited for this card in a few decks. I think it's a reasonable mid-range card. I've also noticed that people have started going up the curve quite a bit in their tempo decks. So I wonder if they would play them there. I like to keep my tempo decks more lean, so I wouldn't include it there. But I could also see it seeing play in the blitz style decks, because getting to copy all your pump spells, or not all of them, the first one you cast each turn is pretty big. I guess it's kind of a downer that you can't copy Berserk, because you usually want to copy the other ones first. But I guess if you're like really trying to get them, you could copy Berserk on like.
I mean, Berserk on this goes from 8 to 16. That's kind of spicy.
Well, no, it goes to more than that, because it triggers because you're copying it, so it go to 20.
Right.
So
right.
I lied. Berserk is just them dead. So yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I can see the scene play. I'm excited because it says each turn as well, so you can like cast like an opt or something innocent on your turn if you're not casting a pump spell after you attack. This gets in for 5. You draw 2 cards off your opt, gets them, and then like you can go super shields up on your turn, making the first counter spell you cast just double cast, so it's hard for them to fight over. Or you have a removal spell, you can fork your removal spell, kill 2 of their things. I think this card provides a lot of value. I like it.
Cool. Next up, we have Calcian the Plague. 3 mana 2/2 legendary human assassin for Mardu. A red, a white, and a black. Has a bunch of keywords, vigilance and haste, and gets +1/+1 for each experience counter you have. So this is another one of the cards from the commander set. Might not be too relevant, but who knows. Tap, Calcian deals 1 damage to target creature you don't control. When that creature dies this turn, you get an experience counter. Alex, what do you think?
My princess. So you cast this, you attack with vigilance, you then tap it, kill their 1-drop, and it's cracking in as a 3/3.
Yeah.
How does that sound?
Elves hate it.
Or you just like crash in, leave it up, and kill their mana dork whenever you feel like. I don't know, like this card seems pretty hot. Like even as like a haste pinger that pumps itself, it's just like it's flexible, it kills stuff, it gets big. I dig it.
The nice thing about the experience counters is if this creature dies and you bring it back, it doesn't lose a lot of the progress you have, just the way, because experience stays on you, or I can't remember exactly how that works, but it sticks around outside of it. It's not like you're putting +1/+1 counters
every
on the
day
plague.
on Earth gets better.
People tend to put like a counter on their Marin to represent experience, but Marin doesn't have the counters. It is indeed you that has the experience counters.
I love it. All right, let's move on to Karuga and ignore half the text on it. So Karuga, the Macro Sage, is a 5 mana 5/4 for 3. What is green blue? Simic hybrid gets you a legendary Dino Hippo. And the only relevant text on it is when it enters the battlefield, draw a card for each other permanent you control with convert a mana cost to 3 or greater. JR, what do you think?
I mean, I love this card. If there's anybody who loves playing a lot of permanents that they probably shouldn't have CMC 3 or greater, it's me. I'm probably going to play this. I don't exactly know in what. Probably can't fit into honorary druids. You could probably play it in some sort of opposition deck.
Oh,
that's maybe what I'm thinking. You often have a lot of things in play.
How many cards are you drawing to be happy off of this?
I think if you draw,
it doesn't count itself, which is worth mentioning.
2 or more, you're pretty, like, the body in itself is pretty solid. Like, you're getting a 5/4 for 5, which is like, it's probably going to beat most things in combat, at the very worst trade with your opponent's biggest thing. And yeah, I think you could play it in an opposition deck. You want to get a lot of things in play. Could be good there.
Decent.
All right. Well, you know what's not an honorary druid? Kinnan Bonder Prodigy. Great segue, Serge. Thanks, Serge. 2 mana 2/2 for a green and a blue legendary human druid. Do I have your attention? Whenever you tap a non-land permanent for mana, add 1 mana of any type that permanent produced. 7 mana activated ability for 5 green blue. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a non-human creature card from amongst them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom in a random order. Jer.
Yes, this goes into Druid Tribal. Excellent. Glad that's over. I could honestly see this seeing some play in other decks as well. It has enough relevant text on it that it could help out some other decks. Like if you're playing the blue version of Hoof and not playing Druids for some ridiculous reason.
I was about to say, blue Hoof seems like the kind of home for this thing.
Yeah, and you could honestly play it in any big mana blue-green deck that can...
It's like Simic Ramp.
Take advantage, exactly. But yeah, this card's definitely good in the Druid Tribal deck.
All right, let's move on to the Labyrinth Raptor. 2 mana, 2/2 Nightmare Dinosaur. You can't see it, but I'm actually throwing up the horns right now. For a black and a red, has menace. Whenever a creature you control with menace becomes blocked, defending player sacrifices one of the creatures blocking it. And for a black and a red, creatures you control with menace get +1/+0 Alex.
What is this?
Choo-choo! All aboard the Nightmare Train.
Good lord. Yeah, this is, I suppose this is another card that is going towards the hopeful eventual red-black aggro deck. Jeez, this is scary.
Would you say it's very menacing? Scary.
It's very menacing. It has cards with a menacing aura. Nightmare Dinosaurs with a menacing aura. Like, this just seems like such a pain to deal with.
Yes. Especially in red-black, because they block with 2 creatures. Then you're like, all right, sack one. They sack one. Then you're like, all right, I'll kill the other one.
Yeah, bolt the other one, terminate the other one.
It's got the inbuilt ability to make blocking it and not blocking it, both suck. Because you're like, oh, I'll block with 2 creatures, and I have to, one's a write-off. And it's like, well, maybe I won't block it, and you pumped it. So, yeah.
It's just all bad.
Bad for you.
For your opponent, yeah. For you.
Yeah. You're like, this sucks. Like, super first strike. One of the creatures just dies. It just shows up and just gets run over.
Beep, beep.
All right, let's talk about Lore Dracus. 3 mana, 2/3 Lizard Beast for 1, a blue and a red. Mutates for Is It Hybrid? And whenever this creature mutates, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Jer, pardon me.
I'm not a huge fan of this mutate card. I think it's a little underwhelming for me, and often the not having, you really don't want to cast this not mutated. When you do mutate it, you really want to get something pretty significant back to make it worth the inclusion in your deck. And the big downside to this, as opposed to the other things that typically see play, like Snapcaster Mage, the other ones, I slip in my mind at the moment, but is you need a creature already in play, for this to mutate onto, and those decks don't always have that, and it opens you up to your regrowth getting removal spelled. I just think the upside's not quite there on this one.
All right, let's talk about another legendary cat. Let's talk about Lurrus the Dream Den. 3 mana, 3/2 for 1 Orzhov hybrid. Has lifelink. During each of your turns, you may cast 1 permanent spell with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard. Wheeler.
I was hoping to gush about this card before it, started breaking formats left and right, but that was evidently not on the menu.
Well, you got to play an island first.
Yeah, but now I don't sound as big brain, because I was, when this card got previewed, I was madly in love. It immediately gained my favorite card of the set spot. This does everything a wheeler wants to do. It's I'm going to return Black Lotus. I'm going to return Safi Eric's daughter. I'm going to cast Reanimate with this card. Probably targeting, or not Reanimate. I'm going to play it in a deck with Reanimates, typically targeting Safi Eric's daughter. I might even play it in a deck with reanimates just because I can cast my animate dead from the graveyard.
Yeah.
This card is kind of just absurd. Like, I'll play it in mono white too. Like, Orzhov makes it even easier to cast. Like, just replaying your Thalia. Like, Benevolent Bodyguard and Dauntless Bodyguard with this card.
Somebody blows up your GT. Yo, this cat's got your back.
Yeah, this cat, and then it has lifelink.
All right,
then
I have a flavor question
like...
here. I have a very important flavor question here. Why isn't it a dog that is fetching these things from the graveyard for? It's like, your GT got blown off? Good dog, you got my GT back.
It's like a protective cat mom.
No, Serge, have you never had a cat bring you a trophy?
Yeah.
Oh, this is it killing things and laying it down at your feet?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, it's this card is so good. I love this card. And it's very funny to have like every other facet of Magic be like, oh, I hate Lurrus so much. It's ruining the game. And I'm over here like, cat go meow. Right? Like, it's just like, yeah.
No, you can't just print a card like this.
Yeah, this card is absurd. This card is absurd, and I love it. And you should play it. The end.
All right, let's talk about a card that has made other formats unhappy and brought about the whole companion conversation. But
not our problem.
Yeah, just like all done. Lutri, the Spell Chaser, aka the Otter. Legendary Elemental Otter for 3 mana, 1 brain, red blue.
Is it
hybrid, gets you a 3/2 with flash. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new copies. Jer.
I mean, I just like these style of effects. I'm a big fan of the dual caster mage combo with Twin Flame. Unfortunately, this doesn't work with that because it's legendary.
No.
But this has a better body and it's easier to cast. The double red on the dual caster mage is often a big downside, and I can honestly see playing this as a value card. I think it's fine.
Cool.
Card's great. You get to Caracas it.
This is my honorary favorite card in the set. Not only because it's a cute otter, but because now I get to play Highlander in every format.
Hey!
Nice. All right, next up we have a Planeswalker. Narset of the Ancient Way. 4 mana, 1 a blue, a red, and a white gets you a 4 loyalty Narset Planeswalker, +1 ability. You gain +2 life. Why did I say +2 life? You gain 2 life, and then you may add blue, red, or white mana. Spend it only to cast non-creature spells. -2. Draw a card, then you may discard a card. Important may there. When you discard a non-land card this way, Narset deals damage equal to its CMC to target creature or planeswalker. And -6, you get an emblem with whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this emblem deals 2 damage to any target. Wheeler.
I mentioned the Jeskai deck earlier, the one that is looking to just play a bunch of planeswalkers and then play a bunch of time walks or other planeswalkers, and she fits right at home in that style of deck. I am not sure. Well, I'll play her in Jeskai control. Like, I'll give her a shot. The mana cost obviously kind of limits what you are playing her in, and her plus ability. Like, she doesn't do a good job of defending herself. 4 mana to potentially kill one of their things. You get a loot. That's nice, I guess. But it leaves her with 2 loyalty, which is very vulnerable. So I really think you need to be ahead of the curve. Like, if I'm casting this card, I need to be untapping with 4 mana while my opponent only has 2. Or I need to, like, have won some kind of counter war or like tried to fight over something on end step and run them out of resources, play this and then kill their thing. But like, all the abilities are at least relevant enough. The fact that you kill planeswalkers is quite nice. You still need to discard a 6-drop to kill Oko, which is hilarious and also really disheartening. But yeah, I mean, this card, there are decks that can utilize her. Some will do it better than others. She's a slam dunk in the Super Frenzy kind of decks like that can cast her. But if she ends up not having a long-term home in the Jeskai variants or Dark Jeskai, it's both not the end of the world and also not entirely shocking.
Yeah. All right, next up we have Necro Panther. 3 mana, 3/3 for 1 a white and a black creature type cat nightmare. Also mutates for 2 Orzhov. Whenever this creature mutates, return target creature card with CMC 3 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. Alex.
Yum, 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 yum. I mentioned Unearth earlier. I might get blinders on about anything that does a reasonable impression of that card. So it's possible that I'm overvaluing this, but I just love getting stuff back from my yard. Like, this is a completely average body if you just cast it. It's just like, it exists.
Maybe a better top deck than...
Yeah, it's probably like a better top deck later in the game. So, it's kind of neat. I just think it's neat.
I think I think you're allowed to like things. Just like, I just like this.
Yep. Oh, speaking of things I like.
5 mana enchantment, Offspring's Revenge. 2 red, white, black. At the beginning of combat on your turn, exile target red, white, or black creature card from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy, except it's a 1/1 that has haste until end of turn. Wait, it gains haste until the end of your turn. It doesn't get sacrificed.
No.
Yeah.
You just get a 1/1 copy forever.
Yes.
Alex.
I think this card is super cool. I haven't yet figured out what kind of like nutso shenanigans you could get up to it with it, but it's a very powerful ability. And getting haste is also very powerful.
Is it? I mean, what about its possible placement in an archetype that is looking to repeatedly sacrifice creatures and then drain the opponent's life total?
Oh wait, it's no, this is on the tip of my tongue. It's like you could play Academy
Zombies.
Rector in it. That's the one.
No. Slam dunk and zombies.
The aristocrats, you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the home that's jumping out to me.
I wanted to play this in Mardu Monarch.
Yeah, that too. It's like getting back a Chupacabra or a Palace Jailer.
Custody
yeah,
Lich.
that's pretty
and good.
Oh heck.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, that's woof.
It is 5 mana though.
It is at the beginning of combat.
Yeah.
So it does something immediately,
which is a big deal.
Oh.
I wouldn't hate rectoring into this. I think that'd be pretty sweet. Get them.
Yeah, it just kind of fits that category of expensive but impactful, and I think it at least checks off enough boxes that it's worth considering, especially because the archetypes that play it already just play like a bunch of really not great cards at costs that are far above what they usually should, but that's fine because that's what you want. Like you want those cards to do that, right?
Yeah, you might be getting back cards that are kind of boopy on their own, but like the effect they have, it's like, oh man, my Blood Artist has a point of power now.
Oh,
and haste. Get
it. All right, let's talk about Parcel Beast. 4 mana, 2/4 for 2, a green and a blue, but it can mutate for green and a blue. Activated ability, 1 and tap. Look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, you may put it on the battlefield. If you don't put the card onto the battlefield, put it into your hand. Jer.
I really like this card, but I just don't see a real home for it. Like, the ability's good, and I think, obviously, if this had no mana cost attachment to the ability, it would see play. Just to get to tap to Coiling Oracle every turn. But, yeah.
You can't see playing this in Omniscience? Or not, Opposition, Jesus.
Opposition.
Wow.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I just think
like
early on you really just want to develop, and then later I think there's just better things you can do.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I guess I'm looking
my read.
I'm looking at this as like I've played this Elvish Visionary or Wall of Blossoms, or like if you have one of the draws when you're all mana, no Karuga. Yeah, there we go. You're all mana, no Karuga, and you just like, this is just a card that deck doesn't hate casting on 4, especially because you have so much mana. And then if you can convert one of your more dorky permanents into this, seems kind of like gravy to me. Seedborn Muse, Prophet of Krufix with this card.
I don't mind this coming down on turn 2 if you go like 1-drop mutate, because if you mutate it or maybe not.
It's
well, like think how you can get ahead on mana.
I don't want to stifle what you're saying. On turn 2, like it can ensure against certain decks that like, you know, it's a 2/4. That's pretty big against a lot of aggressive archetypes. But at least my experiences playing with mutate is that like often, like outside of limited, I should say, is that often playing the mutate card, like holding it back to get as much value out of it as possible, like being able to play it when you have the mana is what you're really looking for. And because Parcel Beast doesn't have the when this mutates do
you don't
blank,
have,
is that just casting this card is, you know, you don't play it because you just want a 2/4 for 4 with that ability, but because you have the flexibility of playing it early against the archetypes where you want to do that, then you will consider including it. I'm a big fan of this card.
All right, let's talk about Riel the Everwise. 3 mana 0/3 legendary human wizard for 1, a blue and a red. Gets +1/+0 for each instant and sorcery in your graveyard. And whenever you discard 1 or more cards for the first time each turn, draw that many cards. And yes, that works the way you want it to. Wheeler.
I think this card's not bad, pretty good. It's when I first read it, for whatever reason, I thought it had 4 toughness and thought it was absurd. And then I reread it, saw it had 3, and was like, okay, well, I still love you. Decks like the blue red like prowessy deck has a lot of discard in it, right? Like it's be it your careful study, faithless looting, royal scions, rando loot effects just attached to cards. So like the second kind of admittedly cuter ability is something that you can already take advantage of. And then also having the increased power, obviously, in a spell heavy deck. Not bad. Dying to Bolt and getting Caracas, that's not great. But if they're not, like, if they bolt this, then hopefully they're not bolting your Spellheart Chimera, or hopefully they're not Caracasing your JVP or whatever it may be. I think this card has a home in our format and a pre-existing archetype that is totally fine.
Speaking of JVP, this card is absurd with JVP.
Yup.
Yeah.
Well,
all right, let's talk about another ultimatum, the Ruinous Ultimatum. Mardu, red, white, black, sorcery, destroy all non-land permanents your opponents control. Alex.
Big Mardu finisher. I don't know if a deck exists that wants to play this card, but maybe we have to make one.
Prison.
I'm gonna
to prison.
I'm gonna throw
my old Mardu prison deck here. You're already playing wildfires. You're already ramping, and you're just like, just get them.
And they're just like trying to claw back into the game, like playing mana dorks and stuff. And then you're just like, oh yeah, they're all gone.
Die.
Just like this, followed up by Armageddon.
I was about to say the 1-2 combo.
Yes.
You just demoralize your opponent to death.
I mean, I think the only thing better than that is one time playing against Wheeler when I get in and then played Tabernacle against his creature deck. You're just like, go to sleep.
Didn't you lose that game?
Did I win that match, Serge?
I did,
game?
but it felt good at the time, okay? Let me have this!
I was sort of half joking about Big Mardu, but like, I don't know, maybe there's some sort of Mardu control deck that isn't like literal prison.
I can honestly see playing this in Mardu Monarch as well.
Monarchy, yeah, that's where I like it.
Because like you have a lot of creatures and you just like blow up every last thing they have and then just like smash them with impunity.
Yeah, you're just like you just got, this is a pestle and mortar card. You're just like grinding your opponent with just like
It's
into
like,
the dust.
Die.
Like, well, a little bit of solid there. No, gotta grind that down.
Tilt is a win con that people don't often
Yeah.
talk
How
about.
do you feel about Mizzix's mastering into this?
Oh my god.
You could do better. You can just win the game.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I mean, this kind of does, but still. All right, let's talk about Skull Prophet. 2 mana, 3/1 for a black and a green human druid. Taps to add black or green, or tap, put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. Alex, what do you think?
Yes. Yes. This is delicious.
When I think of Alex, this is the card that I now picture.
Yeah,
Like-
Yeah.
cards hot.
Like 3 power. The 3 power is what puts it over the top for me. Like it's just like that 3 power just lets you justify putting it in basically any deck you want.
Pretty much. I mean, it's almost like it's 3 different cards that are trying to be one card, and they actually pull it off.
Yeah, it's really dope.
Yeah, it's very good. So it's like you can play this, well, like Jer says, in almost anything. You throw it in the graveyard deck, and it ramps you and also fuels your graveyard, and sometimes it just like crashes in and kills your opponent.
The like relative community apathy towards this card when it got previewed was mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Like, it does everything that these colors that want to do, that pre-existing archetypes in our format that would absolutely slam dunk. Like, it just does everything.
This card
It's
also
like,
seems absurd in Dredge.
yeah, that was the like first thing, is just like, oh, okay, so it's another black creature that ramps you to your Busto 4-drops or survival lines, but they also just have to block it. And then if you don't, for what, like, you could just keep it on defense, and so they don't want to attack into it and trade with their good threat.
Yep.
And then you just get to keep milling yourself. Like, ugh.
Card's good. Oh, also, it's a druid.
It's a druid.
And a human.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And a human.
Card's stacked.
All right, let's move on to Sky Cat Sovereign. 2 mana, 1/1 elemental cat for a white and a blue, has flying. Gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with flying. And activated ability, 2 white, blue. Create a 1/1 white cat bird creature token with flying. I'm going to throw this to myself. I love this.
Hey,
And
wait
this
a
makes me wanna-
minute.
What's up?
Wait a minute. This is
Go
just Pride of the Clouds, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, no forecast. They,
But-
for whatever
but it
reason,
has an
they last
ability
minute
like
scrapped it.
Aftercast.
So Pride of the Clouds,
Yes.
2 mana, 1/1 elemental cat, flying. Pride of the Cloud gets +1/+1 for each other creature with flying. Yeah, but instead of forecast, which you had to reveal it from your hand. Wow, nice call, Alex. This is
Right?
the exact same card, except they got rid of forecast, which just makes this better.
Just put it on the card.
Hold on.
Now, really
Okay.
quickly though, let's talk about the art. I think I might prefer the art from Pride of the Clouds better, personally.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
You're
that's
just going to
very
win more
cool.
games with that art.
Now, what's interesting though is I don't think I'd play Pride of the Clouds, but I'm absolutely going to play Sky Cat Sovereign.
What?
I think this card's great. One of my favorite cards in Blue White Tempo is actually a land. I think it's called Moorland Haunt.
Yeah, that card's
Yeah.
Oh
dope.
wait, is it the one that makes spirits?
Yeah, so Moorland Haunt is a land, taps to add colorless. Yes.
Yeah.
And for white and a blue, exile a creature card from your graveyard. Make a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying.
Yeah, that
and
card is
that-
like Sky's secret tech.
I might actually, I might bring that up as the best card you're not playing. I like that. I won't talk about it too much. I think that offers a lot of value and a lot of flexibility. And as a tempo deck, it's great having an actual really relevant mana sink. So if you hold up counter magic and you're applying pressure and you're doing whatever you want in their turn and they don't do anything, you're like, great, cat. You're like, oh, what's that? Every time you activate it, you're actually pumping for 2. You're making another body, and you're also growing your Sky Cat Coffin here.
Why the heck
Sky
didn't I
Cat
see that?
Sovereign. It's really, really good.
All right.
Let's move on to Slither Wisp. 3 mana, 3/2 elemental nightmare with flash for a blue, black, black. Whenever you cast another spell that has flash, you draw a card, and each opponent loses 1 life. Jer.
So this is one of those cards that I misread the first few times I read it, and I still thought it was insane. So when I first read it, I thought you lost a life.
No.
and I still thought it was amazing. And then when I eventually read that you just get to cast spells and just like drain, like nug your opponent and draw cards,
Yeah.
I just started shaking my head. This card is insane. You just do nothing for the rest of the game. All you have to do is cast spells. It's the dream. Like,
All right, so auto include.
yeah, this is like one of the reasons that we're bug flash now. This card's
Word.
amazing.
All right, let's talk about Snapdack's Apex of the Hunt. 4 mana, 3/5 legendary dinosaur cat nightmare for 1 red, white, black. The Mardu has double strike. You can also mutate it for 2 red-black hybrid, which is Rakdos, white, white. Whenever this creature mutates, it deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls, and you gain 4 life, Alex. There's a lot of words on this card.
Yeah, I guess we're all playing Mardu Monarch now. Like, this card seems good as heck. Because, like, 3/5 double strike for 4 is already, like, youch! My face! What have you done to my face?
Their face, yeah.
Their face, yeah. And then, like, because you mutate it, you get the Flame Tongue Kavu with life gain, and then you give the creature double strike or a 3/5 body.
And it hits planeswalkers.
Yeah.
Mamma mia.
I think this is
this card seems
probably
very
one of the
good.
spicier mutate cards.
Well, this is also, like, a contender for the 4-drop Mardu slot, which is, like, pretty hot as it is. So,
Jer?
yeah, no, this card's good.
Yeah, this card's just great. And I don't know a lot about mutate, but I think this one passes whatever the bar is set at.
It's probably fine. It's probably fine.
All right, let's talk about Song of Creation. 4 mana enchantment for 1 green, blue, red. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Whenever you cast a spell, draw 2 cards. At the beginning of your end step, discard your hand. I'm going to pass this haiku over to Wheeler.
So here's the thing. Usually, when you have a card and it says draw 2 cards when you cast a spell, that's pretty good. We've seen it before. We've seen it with like recycle and whatnot. But those are 6 mana spells. That's a lot. This card is kind of busted in the right deck. Like, I can't stress. I mean, there are going to be other decks that you can play this in than the one I'm about to mention. But this card is broken in half in eggs. Like, absolutely snapped in half, throw it off a bridge in eggs. That's a deck that's already kind of moved into playing red just as like a main color because, I mean, Underworld Breach sure is a Magic card. But the fact that you get to drop this and still play your Tolarian Academy, like one of the big issues, like when eggs goes off, it only really will ever brick if you have to play your land to start going off and you don't find a way to get Tolarian Academy into play. This just bypasses this. You can tap out, you can play your land for turn, tap out, cast this, storm off, and then if you find your Academy, you just get to play it for free.
So are you treating this more like a sorcery than an enchantment? If you know what I mean?
They're not getting another turn.
Yeah, okay. So this isn't a value card. This isn't something you play early and slowly build.
Well, you can't really slowly build because you discard your hand, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's a question you have. I guess this card has a pretty high skill ceiling of knowing when to play it because of the downside at the very end.
Well, one of the other decks that I've been excited to try this out in is the like a Rug 1,000-Year Storm kind of combo shell. Some variant of Big Gay Electric Prince that I played. Where like that deck plays Rampant Growths and Explore and 3 visits and whatnot. And one of the issues with that kind of deck, or like a Heartbeat of Spring kind of combo deck, is more just like a general term to use, is that you can hit this point where you're just drawing these Rampant Growths and you really need more tutors, Time Walks, or cantrips. And this just turns every single Rampant Growth or 3 visits into draw 2, which is great. That's exactly what you want. Yeah, I think this card is broken in half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with Ben, and I was going to talk about Heartbeat Storm as well. I think both this and a future card are both
Cool.
huge boons to that deck.
Hey, Serge, I'm going to cut you off before you announce the next card because I figure we could just dub in some Gregorian, like, wailing about it.
Oh.
So, it's a little
Sprite
messed
Dragon.
up. Yep.
Sprite Dragon. Fairy Dragon, 1/1 flying haste for a blue and a red. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Sprite Dragon.
Okay.
Wheeler, take it away.
Okay.
Whatever happened to prowess?
Yeah, Storm
It
Chaser
got better.
Mage is a blue and a red for a 1/3 with flying haste and prowess. When that card came out in Oath of the Gatewatch, I was super high on that card. And like, I'm not too hard on myself for it because I mean, it has all the right words, right? You'd think that card would be great. But it turned out that just like a 1 power prowess creature at 2, just it often doesn't feel like it does enough. Sprite Dragon, it just really showing what 2020 Magic cards have to offer. Like it's like this card just stays big. It's like every part of Storm Chaser Mage was great, except for the fact that it, you know, if you played like a cantrip, it's not like a haha, now you take 2 instead of 1, because that doesn't matter. You like would need to save for a density turn. Sprite Dragon just doesn't care. You're just like, I'll play this dragon. Yeah, I guess I'll mental note. You take 2 instead. Oh, and I untap with a 2/2? Great. Love it.
Next turn, you take 6.
Yeah, this card is just kind of like
Okay.
it's very good. It's very good. It's just kind of like, oh,
I'm going to pump this with Mutagenic Growth to save it from Bolt so many times.
Yep.
yeah, like
Gross. Gross.
All right, let's talk about Titan's Nest then. 4 mana enchantment for 1, a black, a green, and a blue. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into your graveyard. And an activated ability, exile a card from your graveyard. Add a colorless. Spend this mana only to cast a colored spell with X in the mana cost.
No,
Kind of
without.
weird. Jer, what do you think?
Without.
Wait.
That's a big deal.
Spend this only to cast a colored spell without X in the mana cost. That's a very big difference. Thank you for catching that.
Simply put, colored spells you control have Delve.
Yes. And it surveils 1 at your upkeep. Yeah, so this is another card I had to read several times before actually figuring out what it did.
Like, this is really dumb, right?
Yeah, that's the conclusion I came to, is that, like, there's got to be some decks where just giving all your spells Delve is stupid.
Like just
really good.
Yeah. Extremely stupid.
Yeah, like, I think there's got to be some, like, combo-y style deck where you can all of a sudden just play this and, like, just pop all the way off.
Just, yeah, like, single pip spells with, like, a really big color or colorless mana cost associated.
Lots of draw 7s apply to this. You can cast.
Wow.
Yeah. It's just like Time Twister's now 1 mana, Wheel of Fortune's now 1 mana.
Like, even all of your just, like, cantrips just incidentally start getting cheaper, because, like, you can burn this on your, like, your mana leaks and your impulses and your doom blades, you know, just like pinging off 1 card from your graveyard to discount everything.
Is this a combo card to get ahead on mana, or is this a mid-range card for a strategy that's already delving?
I don't think it's a mid-range card. I think you have to be doing something kind of busted with it in order to make it worthwhile, but I don't know. It's also possible there's just not a spot for it, but
I was pretty not, maybe suspect isn't the right word, but when I saw this card, I was at least hesitant to immediately kind of like slam it as absurd. I think I'm still in that category, but only because comparing it to Song of Creation or a card we're going to get to later feels a little bit like clunkier. Like it did, like obviously casting, your Time Walks and your Wheel of Fortune, whatever cards for 1 mana is pretty good, or 2 mana. But like there is some setup required, and it's a little bit clunkier because it doesn't really, like, you can play it and then you might not be able to go off, but that's also fine with how the card is designed.
Yeah.
I foresee there's just going to be some kind of 5-color Storm Shell that is just like every Rampant Growth ability, dump a big dumb 4-drop enchantment, and then win the game next turn or that turn.
Yeah.
Coming out pretty soon.
All right, let's go over Ukima Stalking Shadow maybe a little bit quickly, because we kind of accidentally covered it in the previous episode. So this is a 3-mana 2/2 legendary Whale Wolf for 1, a blue and a black. Partners with Kazor, Ruthless Stalker, and that was covered in the green portion of the set review. Can't be blocked, and when it leaves the battlefield, deal X damage to target player, and you gain X life, where X is its power. Wheeler, any sort of thoughts you want to add to this?
Yeah, it's kind of awkward how it lined up, because I think this card really makes Kazur kind of like worth it, because this card is very good. It's not a card that I would necessarily include by itself. I think you still probably have to pair it with Kazur, but it's got a whole bunch of relevant text on it in a deck that can cast it and wants to play this kind of card.
Word.
Yeah, it's also just British Columbia, the Magic card. Like, it's a whale wolf. Like, very cool.
Nice. All right, let's talk about Emori the Collector. 4-mana 4/5 legendary ooze for 2 Golgari hybrid. As it enters the battlefield, choose a card type. Spells you cast with the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. Alex.
Ooze Tribal is still not viable. So spells that cost reduce anything of your choice, like I'm thinking, what is it, like Cloud Key?
Yeah.
They tend to not do anything else. They'll be like, you pay a bunch of mana, pick a thing to discount, that's it. This comes with a 4/5, which isn't so bad. That having been said, what deck wants this? What deck wants to discount spells after 4?
That's a
Great
good question.
Crickets.
Yeah.
Right?
Insert cricket noises.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like...
It's a powerful ability, but like often it gets slapped onto cards that nobody really wants to justify including in their deck. Like, I wouldn't play this in eggs. And people, when I've said that, people are like, wow, why? It's like, well, there's a 2-mana variant that's also an artifact that
Yeah,
I
and a
don't
3-mana
play in
variant
eggs.
that's also an
And
artifact.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just probably not going to end up being a relevant card. Like, I don't know, if somebody killed me with this card outside of like Hoof or like a green creature ramp-ish deck, like, all right, you got me.
Are you
like,
really
it's got
playing...
a relevant body?
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, I wouldn't encourage people to do so, but it's just in that category of, if I die to this, I won't be too shocked.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah, like, am I wrong in thinking that cost-reducing abilities sharply hit the diminishing returns north of 3 mana?
Well, it's like ramp spells and mana rocks
north of
too,
like
right?
2.
Yeah. I think I was thinking of... Oh, no, I actually thought wrong. Baral is a 2-drop.
Yep.
For some
Yep.
reason, I thought he was 3.
No.
Yeah, I think excuse me, anything like north of 2 mana is just like...
Unless it's like incidental. But
Yeah.
Mhm.
If you're going to play it anyways. The thing with any type of acceleration is you need to ask yourself, what turn are you trying to set it up for? I mean,
Yeah.
going from a 2-drop to a 4-drop and accelerating on that turn, very, very powerful, right? But like skipping from 4 to 6, which is what, Sad Robot Solemn Simulacrum used to do. And even that, unless you're like a dedicated strategy that wants to produce a lot of colorless mana, or you care about artifacts or something like that, is even starting to see less play. All right, let's move on to Vadrock, Apex of Thunder. 3 mana, 3/3, legendary elemental dinosaur cat. I love it. Has flying and first strike, casts for a blue, a red, and a white. Also mutates for 1, a Azorius hybrid, red. When this creature mutates, you may cast target non-creature spell with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. Wheeler, what do you think?
I'll try this card in Jeskai mid-range or Jeskai Skies, Jeskai Blitz. Don't be shocked if it ends up not seeing play after the first year. It's for sure powerful. 3 toughness is a liability. Caracas on this card, like lol, okay, cool. Like maybe that's the benefit for you is that you can just Caracas, mutate in Caracas. Works in a very interesting way.
Yeah.
Like if you mutate this over top of something that is a non-human with a relevant ETB, and you choose Vadrock as the top, then you Caracas it. Both of the cards come back to your hand, which is probably just some greedy value. The fact that when you cast the card, it doesn't exile is pretty enticing. But like, I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna. Yeah, I feel like I'm more or less just going to cast this as a 3 mana, 3/3 flying first striker and be like, cool, I have pressure. You have to answer it. And then they answer it. I'm like, oh, okay.
Like, this doesn't replace Mantis Rider, does it?
No.
Oh, God, no.
But exactly, right? Like, if you're looking at the mana cost and you're looking at a role in the deck.
Yeah, I think there's been a Jeskai Skies E deck, like a Jeskai deck that's very aggressive, plays a bunch of flyers, not as deep as like Stormfront Pegasus and those kind of variants. But you got like your card quality is massive. Like, I mean, going Warkite Marauder into this card, into Lightning Angel or Restoration Angel is serious business. So I think this card will see some play. But it's going to be, I worry that people will be more attracted to the mutate and that rather than just like, just play this as a 3/3 first striker with flying. But yeah, I like the card. Application's a little complicated, but I like the card.
Wow, we have some really spicy cards left here. I think it's just like all killer, no filler for the final 5. So let's start with something that's going to, Whirlwind of Thought, 4 mana enchantment, 1 blue, red, white, and it just says, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, draw a card. How you doing there, Jer?
Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Oh yeah, this card's busted. I don't know what they were thinking.
All right, let me put this out there. But Jer, isn't this a 4 mana do nothing enchantment that we often tell people not to play?
You fools! No. It's a 4 mana enchantment that if you cast it on turn 4 and then don't die, you win the game. And if you have more than 4 mana, you might just win that turn.
How?
Dark Ritual, draw a card. Rite of Flame, draw another card. Black Lotus, draw a card. Lion's Eye Diamond, draw a card. Yawgmoth's Will, you're dead.
Honestly, I've been playing this. I mean, I've been playing this card in I mean, not Canlander, but like I could foresee this card in even like a control shell.
Yeah.
Like I'm like if I just tap out and play this card, like again, Jeskai, right? Like if I play this in Jeskai on turn 4, which is a deck that has a buttload of very good removal and counter spells. Like, God. What am I afraid
Did you
of?
look at my deck like, from the last FMPF? I had an Enlightened Tutor package for this and the Sharknado card.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I had Tutor for Sharknado?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's why I had moat.
That explains the moat. Okay, well that makes the moat a little more defensible, but
yeah, just because I looked at this card and I'm like, if you ever resolve this and then don't die in control, how do you ever lose in a million years? Like,
yeah, this card is just kind of like, I think it will get pushed under the rug by people looking at like either Song Creation just being like very evidently kind of busted in half, and Titan's Nest being a bit trickier and ultimately might not, do a thing, might just be broken as well. But Whirlwind of Thought is just like, I mean, boring's not the right word, but there's not a lot of text on it. But like, look at that line of text.
The floor is pretty high. Like the fact that it's not instant and sorcery, it's non-creature, is
Woof.
like. Do you think you'd play this in Paradox Academy? I think you could.
Probably. The mana's pretty good in that deck.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
Amazing. All right, let's move on to Winota, Joiner of Forces. 4 mana 4/4 legendary human warrior for 2, a red and white. And now there's a bunch of words here, so let's go through it slowly. Whenever a non-human creature you control attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may put a human card from amongst them onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. That creature gains indestructible until end of turn. Put the rest of the cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. So for this card to work, you need to attack with non-humans, and then you need to hit with a human. And I'm going to throw to myself with this. I like this a lot. I like this a lot. Well, I've been trying to make like Boros equipment a thing for a very long time, or even just like Boros aggro. And I want to brew around this. The tricky thing is, especially in Singleton, like Winota's making a splash in Standard right now. People seem to really like this card. And you can cheat ahead on mana, which is kind of neat, or you can just play it perfectly fair. The issue is the deck building constraint. Is this a build around?
It's really weird because it kind of non-bows with itself, right? Because you have to attack with a non-human, and then you get a human. Yeah. You know what this makes me think of? A lot of the token producers make non-human tokens, but are humans themselves.
Yeah.
Like there's soldiers or scouts or some other
warriors
nonsense.
Or whatever.
Warriors, yeah.
Well, if I may, Serge, if I may tickle your fancy with this in a little bit, this is an archetype that I have made fun of a lot. It's the infamous Caves of Koilos basic planes ball lightning deck.
Caves of Koilos? You mean Battlefield Forge?
What?
No, I mean Caves of Koilos. This is an actual game. Like there's a Boros, medium Boros kind of deck. It's like a red-white deck that looks to play snowbally threats, and you play the taxation cards. That has had some success in Victoria, where this is that really funny. Like this is where the story.
All right, I remember.
Yeah, like somebody was playing. Yeah, so Garrett, former counselor from Victoria, was playing a red-white deck that had access to. They had a play. I believe it was on their winning into the finals to win this event, where they had a hand of ball lightning, and their lands were like
me.
Oh, it was against Jared too. Yeah, it was like Caves of Koilos, like a waste, like a Darkar waste or something. Just lands that are used to like add a mana plus play your Eldrazi. And then Garrett fixed his mana by playing Magus of the Moon, which let him play ball lightning.
Whoa!
Yeah, and so that's a deck where I don't think you need to do that. In fact, I'd recommend you don't. But it's a deck where I think that there is a good, strong shell there. And you play, again, as Alex said, cards that are humans themselves and make non-humans. Yeah. You play a lot of non-humans and then human-generating tokens or creatures. So I think that's where Winota will find a home.
In 100-card Singleton, it's not as easy to build around Winota as it is, say, Commander or Standard, where you can have play 4-ofs. Like, it's a very large deck building commitment. I think you might be able to incidentally play her. And now an important interaction is you don't often think of her attacking to get the value. You have a board already. You could have, 2 to 4 non-human creatures on the board. You slam her almost like an enchantment. And then if you swing and you manage to hit any humans, then all of a sudden you can kind of alpha strike out of nowhere is sort of the power of this card. Obviously, if she sticks around.
For each non-human that attacks.
Correct.
Not just once per combat. So like if you have...
So you get to dig 6 cards for each one.
If you gather the townsfolk and then play a Aven Mind Sensor and then attack on turn 4 with the 3 of them, you get to look at like 6 cards 3 times. Or I guess gather the townsfolk was bad because that actually makes humans, but... Raise the alarm.
The example, rally, whatever. Yeah.
Real quick to not just like, because I like a 4-mana 4/4 is a weird thing where it just kills people. Like if this card goes unanswered, like even if you don't have the ability triggering, like 4 damage is 1/5 of your starting life total. And if you're in red and white, chances are they're below that starting life total.
Yeah.
And this card really only takes 1 or 2 hits to just kill them, just flat out kill them.
Yep.
Just get them.
I don't know. I like this card. I'll probably play around with it. Let's move on to Yorian Sky Nomad. 5 mana, 4/5 legendary bird serpent for 3 Azorius hybrid, has flying, and when it enters the battlefield, exile any number of other non-land permanents you own and control. Return those cards to the battlefield at the beginning of the next untap. Jared, what do you think?
End step.
I think this card's pretty solid in like the Blink style deck. The fact that it's a flying and a pretty large body makes it, I think, worthwhile. The fact that it also like gives you like a mass blink that can sort of just like win the game on the spot with the value it can generate. It is a little unfortunate that it returns them at the beginning of the next end step, because it probably doesn't allow you to win the game that turn if you were set up to do so with like some combination of Spellseeker, Eternal Witness shenanigans. But yeah, I think it's fine to include in those style of decks.
Cool. Next up, we have Zilortha Strength Incarnate. This is a 5 mana 7/3 legendary dinosaur. If you're curious, this is also the one that has the alternate art of Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Has trample, and lethal damage dealt to a creature you control is determined by power rather than toughness. So this is the opposite of Doran. Jer, what do you think?
It's kind of interesting. I'm not really sure if there's a great deck for this. Like, by the time you get to 5 mana, I'm not sure how relevant that effect will be. It is sort of the equivalent of a 5 mana 7/7 with trample, though. So like,
just so I'm clear on this basically makes creatures you control treat their power as if it's their toughness, right?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, much like how Doran makes their attack like their booty. So this
like,
is, air quotes, a 5 mana 7/7.
Yeah, so like your ball lightning is a 6/6 now.
Yeah.
Yep. Won't die to a 1/1 with first strike.
Neat.
Yeah, I'm just not sure. I think going the other way, the ability is more relevant. But I don't know. I could be wrong.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, and the final card of our set review, our 3-day, 4-hour set review, is Zirda the Dawn Waker. This is a 3 mana 3/3 legendary elemental fox for 1 and Boros hybrid. Abilities you activate that aren't mana abilities cost 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the mana in their cost to less than 1. 1 in tap, target creature can't block, and notably in the set it came out in, cycling is an activated ability. Alex, what do you think of Zirda? Take us home.
So, you mentioned the Boros equipment deck. How'd you like to reduce equip costs? It's a shame it can't take it to 0.
God, if you could equip for free.
That would be pretty hot. But, lowering equip costs, I'm trying to think of other things that this is going to be really, really good with. I mean, it seems pretty hot with stuff like Walking Ballista.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, like stuff. I feel like you want to try and... I almost feel as though your best sweet spot for this card is going to be reducing activated abilities that cost 3 or around there, because like
You mean to get the full value, right?
It's almost a loss to, well, not quite a loss, but it's like less good to use it on abilities that cost 2.
Honestly, it seems weird to say, but I think the like most unfortunate part of this card is just that it's a 3/3. That's if this card were not like, if this card were a 2/2, it would be fantastic. Like you could, I would slam this immediately in like a Bomberman style deck. Because you could just find it with both your recruiters. Basalt
I
Monolith
see.
and Grim Monolith don't need much help to be busted in half, but I mean, this card can also help with that. You can do salvager things too, like just pay 1 to return your Lotus Petal.
Oof.
But like, as a 3/3, I don't know how much play it'll see outside of the equipment strategies.
How weird is it that for once having an additional point of power and toughness is a downside?
Yeah, for red and white, it's just starting to come up more and more.
Yeah, there are just so many decks right now that I just start off with like, okay, Karmic Guide, Revel Arc, Imperial Recruiter the Guard. What's something weird we can do? And I genuinely believe that like variants of that is really unexplored. And yeah, if so, it's weird to say, but also just like the more digging people do, the more that I think like, oh no, this is actually something real that we need to think about.
So I want to ask
Yeah.
closing thoughts on the set. We've spent a lot of time. We really dove deep this time on the set review, and I'm curious what you all think. Let's start with Jer.
Yeah, I think the set is definitely pretty interesting, and from a Highlander perspective, definitely some new exciting toys to play with. I'm still not sure how the mechanics are going to work out. I'm excited to see how Mutate in particular
Yeah,
works out.
Mutate's really weird. I still haven't quite figured out how to assess it.
I think I kind of agree with you. Like Eldraine, it was very easy to look at that set and just be like, oh my god, this is ridiculous. And you're right. A lot of these cards are very, very, very interesting. Yeah. Alex.
Set's real thick. There's lots of cool playables. There's a bunch of cards that are welcome additions to existing archetypes, some that maybe push others into possibility, and then, like Jer says, a bunch of like difficult to assess cards. And I imagine we'll probably see some sleepers in this set, like we usually do, but I get the impression that there's definitely going to be one that we like totally miss that's going to end up being like something insane.
And Wheeler?
You ready for a magic hot take?
Love it. Hit me.
So while the rest of the game may feel like it's on fire right now over companions and whatnot, I genuinely believe that Ikoria will be like, best is a weird word to use, but I sincerely believe that Ikoria is probably one of the like healthiest and should go down as one of the most well appreciated sets for our format of all time. Like, the cards that we are getting are they just like play into both niche strategies and pre-existing strategies. They give benefits where benefits are needed for like tier 2-ish archetypes or decks that just look for more density. There's so many like slam dunk powerful cards. Like, yeah, maybe I'll end up saying like, I wish Song of Creation didn't make my matches so boring in like a month or whatever. But like, this set makes me just so excited to like build with it and play Highlander with it. Like, I don't know, I feel like a kid. It's kind of weird. Again, like the rest of the Magic community is up in arms, but I look at this set and just like every single card, it's like Marie Kondo's there asking me, does it spark joy? And I get to say, yeah, it really does. Like,
amazing.
This set's great.
Very cool. Well, all right, let's call it there, friends. So a reminder that if you feel we missed anything, any cards you wanted us to talk about or anything that you think we're sleeping on, let us know down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. A reminder that North 100 is brought to you by you with your support over at the Patreon, over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.